This is Will, the creator behind the YouTube channel Will's Whereabouts. He documents stealth camping trips across the UK, seeking quiet, isolation, and moments of peace in places most people pass without noticing. But one night, in a location he believed he knew well, Will would be reminded of a hard truth. You are never truly alone, and some encounters are better left unseen. The journey began in a familiar setting, a National Trust car park at Box Hill in the south of the UK. After cooking a meal with a friend and taking a walk, Will returned alone, choosing his spot for the night and preparing to settle in.
I think this will do for tonight's stealth camping. Anyway guys, welcome back to another video. Earlier, as you saw, I cooked and had some delicious fajitas with a friend of mine. We went for a walk and then we were starving hungry, so I ended up having a nice early dinner. Used my outside cooking platform, which a lot of you guys probably haven't seen because, to be honest, I haven't used it a lot because the weather just hasn't been nice for it.
Speaking calmly to the camera, Will explained his setup. He felt comfortable here. He'd known this area for years. The car park sat beside a dense stretch of forest, a place that usually offered exactly what he was looking for: quiet, cover, and solitude.
Anyway, as I was saying, I am in a very familiar place. I actually used to live in this area with my parents a good few years ago now, and I used to work at a restaurant just round the corner, which is where I had my first ever job when I was about, how old? 16, 17 years old. Nah, what's this plonker doing? I'm in the beautiful countryside of Box Hill, which is in the Surrey Hills in the south of the UK. Tonight I'm actually going to be sleeping in the National Trust car park.
But as darkness crept in, the first signs of unease followed. The silence was shattered now and then by the sound of cars nearby, spinning donuts in the distance. The noise echoed through the trees, a reminder that isolation was an illusion.
Outside, I'm literally parked as far back into the forest as I can. There's a few other cars in this National Trust car park. I think there's probably people just having in cars. Time to lock this front door because I don't want anyone thinking that I'm here for a good time when all I really want to do is just go to sleep. The only door that isn't locked is the boot because I can't lock it.
Will continued preparing for the night, trying to tune it out. That's when he mentioned a serious problem. The boot of his car wouldn't lock. A single flaw, one open weakness. At the time, it felt manageable. As the night went on, it would feel anything but.
I don't think I'm going to be getting much sleep tonight. There are people about 100 meters away, blazing music out. At least some good songs anyway. And some people screaming. Wish me luck, everybody.
Just as Will was beginning to drift towards sleep, the fragile calm of the car park collapsed. Out of the darkness, a group of people appeared roughly 100 meters away. Music blasted into the night, spilling into the forest. Trapped inside his car, Will quickly realized the music wasn't the most unsettling part. Beneath it, he could hear people screaming, not laughing, screaming, lying still, hoping he hadn't been noticed. Will was left to imagine what was happening out there in the dark.
Morning, guys. You probably wouldn't believe that it is actually 7:30 and it's pitch black outside. Decided to get the gas stove warmed up just to take the chill out the air and get a bit warmer because it's freezing. Right now it's 1 degree and it certainly felt like that in the middle of the night, but it wasn't actually too bad because I sort of cocooned myself underneath the sleeping bag.
The night dragged on, restless and cold. The The temperature dropped to 1 degree. Sleep came in short, uneasy stretches. When Will finally woke at 7:30 a.m., the world outside was still pitch black. The chaos from the night before had vanished. All that remained were birdsong, quiet and unnatural after what he had endured.
Nobody in the car park. The sun is just starting to come up, which I'll show you in a second. I'll get the drone up and I'll show you exactly where I stayed. This was the spot last night. You can hear the birds actually.
Will made it through the night without being harmed, but the feeling stayed with him. Who were those people, and what caused the screams that echoed through the forest in the middle of the night? It was a chilling reminder that even in places you think you know, danger can arrive without warning. And sometimes, the most terrifying things aren't hiding in the dark. They're close enough to hear, just beyond your door. This encounter comes from a YouTube channel called Travel Tales. For Chris and Charlene, van life had always been a refuge. Their motorhome was more than a vehicle. It was a moving shelter for freedom, adventure, and quiet moments surrounded by nature. From scenic overlooks to peaceful campsites, the road had given them comfort and connection. But one night in France would shatter that sense of safety and force them to question how secure life on the road truly is. The day began like so many others. Chris and Charlene explored the countryside, searching for the perfect place to park for the night. Eventually, they found it, a picturesque spot at the top of a hill, surrounded by trees, with benches and a fire pit already in place. The view was stunning, calm, inviting. As daylight faded, they built a fire, shared a meal, and talked about future adventures. Despite the chill in the air and the wind slowly picking up, the atmosphere remained peaceful. Nothing felt wrong, but the parking area sat on a slight incline, making sleep uncomfortable. After weighing their options, they chose to move to a flatter spot lower on the hill. By the time they parked again, exhaustion had fully set in. They locked the doors, settled inside the motorhome, and prepared for what they believed would be a quiet night. Peace, however, was not waiting for them.
We're back on the road because we couldn't sleep where we were. Basically, there were a lot of people outside our van and we didn't feel safe there, so we had to leave. We were asleep and we heard a lot of noise coming from outside. We think that there were people having a laugh, and a chat, but it turned out to be a nightmare for us. We're very tired right now.
At around 3 a.m., they were jolted awake by noises outside. At first, it sounded like distant voices and music, faint, indistinct, slowly growing louder. They assumed it was a group of people nearby, maybe partying, unusual, but not unheard of. Then the sounds moved closer. Suddenly, the motorhome was no longer just nearby noise. It was the target. Loud, violent bangs erupted from outside as unknown individuals began pounding on the vehicle from multiple sides. Charlene's dog, Holly, exploded into barking, her instincts immediately recognizing the danger. Chris and Charlene, still groggy from sleep, felt panic surge through their bodies as reality set in. There wasn't just one person outside, there were several, and their actions were deliberate, aggressive, menacing. Chris later described hearing a heavy thud land on the bonnet, followed by furious pounding along the sides of the motorhome. The noise grew louder, harder, more frantic. For a brief moment, Chris considered stepping outside, but the sheer number of people and the complete uncertainty of what they might do stopped him cold. Confrontation wasn't an option. They made a decision. Chris started the engine, and they drove off into the darkness, hearts racing, fear tightening in their chests. As the motorhome disappeared down the road, a new fear took hold that the group might follow them. For roughly 15 minutes, they drove with no real destination, adrenaline flooding their systems. Only when the road finally felt empty did they stop. Even then, their hands were shaking. What had just happened was still sinking in. It was a complete shock, Charlene later said. We didn't know who they were or what they wanted. We just knew we had to get out of there. The next morning, parked safely in a new location, Chris and Charlene tried to process the night. There was no damage to the motorhome, but emotionally, the impact lingered. They reflected on how quickly a peaceful park-up could turn into a nightmare. They had heard stories, vans targeted, travelers harassed, vehicles robbed, but never believed it would happen to them. That night became a wake-up call. They realized how important it is to avoid isolated spots at night and to stay constantly aware of their surroundings. Charlene admitted that in the past, they had sometimes grown too comfortable, sometimes even forgetting to lock the doors in places that felt safe. This encounter stripped that illusion away. Despite the terror of that night, Chris and Charlene were grateful. They escaped unharmed. Their motorhome remained intact. "We were lucky this time," Chris reflected, "but it was a lesson they will never forget." Story number 3 comes from Brendan James of the channel Brendan Explores. Brendan is no stranger to unfamiliar places. He regularly ventures into areas most people avoid, driven by curiosity and the road ahead. But in this video, that curiosity leads him to Jaywick, a town long known for its troubled reputation. What should have been a routine stop would instead become an unforgettable night of fear. The plan was simple. Brendan would arrive in Jaywick, stealth camp for the night, and continue his journey the next day. But what awaited him there would shatter his sense of security and force him to question everything he believed about safety while traveling alone.
Our park up for the evening is just around the corner, apparently. No way. Wants me to stay down here? Oh my god. Look at all that. Sounds like a flipping bonfire or something. In there. Looks like a few of these bins have been set on fire a few times. Look at the rubbish. Well, this is apparently where I'm supposed to be staying tonight, and I don't really feel safe staying here.
As Brendan approaches Jaywick, unease settles in almost immediately. The camera captures rows of rundown bungalows, streets emptied of life, and an atmosphere that feels wrong in a way that's hard to explain. The silence feels watched. He pulls into his chosen parking spot, uncertain but committed to staying the night.
I'm very aware that I don't really want anyone to see me logging or setting up camp for the night. We'll go and see what the restrictions are in this parking spot, but I feel a lot safer here than I would have done at St. Christopher's Way. That looked like a bit of a dodgy street, that. First off, let's go and check what the parking restrictions are, see if we can stay here overnight.
Brendan begins setting up camp, trying to convince himself this is just another stop. The sun sinks lower, shadows stretching across the pavement. A strange stillness hangs in the air. He scans the area again, searching for any sign of movement. Nothing appears. Though unsettled, he pushes the feeling aside and starts preparing dinner.
Look at that! Look at that! I can taste the coconut and almonds there. Ooh, that's got a bit of a kick to it. Right, let's get a nice big chunk of lamb. Bit of rice. That right there is by far, hands down, the best meal I've cooked in this van.
As he cooks, his senses remain on edge. His eyes keep drifting toward the windows, his body tense, alert to every sound. He tries to focus on the meal, forcing himself to ignore the growing sense of dread, but his instincts are working against him, urging him toward a decision, one he would later regret more than anything.
When I started cooking dinner, there was a few cars parked around me. There was a van over there. And now I am the only one in this car park, and I wonder why. I'm going to follow my gut instinct. I'm not parking here tonight. Just got a funny feeling about it. And I think when you have that feeling, best thing you can do is move on. Right, okay. I'll look for park for night. Find a lovely little spot. It isn't too far from where I am right now. and see if I can get my head down for the night. I don't think I'm going to be able to relax properly here.
Seeing no one nearby, Brendan decides to move his campsite to what he believes is a safer location. It feels like the right call, but what waits for him there is far more malicious than he could have imagined.
Right, after traipsing around for the last 20 minutes to half hour trying to find a spot, there's apparently a quiet little park up at the end here, maybe. This'll do me. I'm alone, but I mean, there's no other houses around me, so it's not as if I'm alone in a housing estate. It is literally pitch black. Oh, just how I like it. I don't think you can see much out there, but it's absolutely dead quiet. But thank you ever so much for joining me. I will bring you back in the morning and I'll show you a proper look at this place. Couldn't really see much when it's pitch black, but yeah. I appreciate you joining me for this adventure. I hope you've enjoyed the video so far, and stick around next week as we explore a couple more places on our way back to Shrewsbury. I'll see you in the morning. I think someone's outside the back. Someone just tried the door. Hey!
Later, as he drifts into what feels like a calm, uneasy sleep, a sound cuts through the silence. Footsteps, soft at first, almost imperceptible, then closer, slower, intentional, right outside the van. Brendan's anxiety spikes. His eyes dart around the interior as the realization sets in. The thin metal walls are the only thing separating him from whatever is out there. Then the door handle rattles. The van shudders slightly as someone tries to force their way inside. And then it happens. Glass shatters. The sharp, violent crack tears through the night, exploding the silence and flooding his body with terror.
Right, whoever the that was has now gone. I'm gonna get out of here. Oh my god. Where's my phone?
His mind struggles to process what just happened. Adrenaline surges as he steps outside, only to see the window broken. There's no hesitation, no second guessing. Brendan jumps back into the van. The engine roars to life. He speeds away into the darkness, refusing to look back, terrified of what might still be standing just beyond the reach of the headlights.
But what happened directly after the last clip? Well, to say I was scared, you-know-whatless, would be an understatement. I wasn't exactly concentrating on, should I film this, should I film that, so there wasn't really a lot to film afterwards. I just, quite frankly, just wanted to go home. I was really, I wasn't in a good mind space. After cleaning a little bit of broken glass from my driver's seat and the dashboard, you'd be surprised how far glass goes when it smashes. I've been finding little bits everywhere. But the van was in no fit state to continue camping in, and nor was my headspace, should we say. So I made the long journey back home. I was able to do a makeshift repair on the window for a few hours before it got repaired, and put a couple of bin bags with some masking tape or duct tape or gaffer tape, whatever it is. I personally think they saw the fridge covered up in the front. After trying the side door and seeing that they couldn't get in, obviously the curtains were closed, so they can't see inside, although I did see a couple of flashes of a bit of a torch. But they probably saw inside the front cab, saw the curtain covering this huge box, and I can only assume they thought it was a toolbox or something, and decided to put the window in.
Eventually, Brendan makes it home, but the night doesn't end there. He cleans the broken glass, yet the feeling never leaves. The fear lingers, heavy in the back of his mind. He replays the events over and over, realizing that Jaywick, already burdened with a dark reputation, has now become something far worse in his memory. Brendan James made it home safely that night, but one question remains unanswered. Who was out there in the dark, watching and waiting?